Hello there. If you have not tried solving this question yet, please stop watching the video now and try the question first. Remember to use the CECR table. Alright, let us begin. Now after watching the video and marking your own answer, remember to do your corrections before proceeding to do the practice questions. Now just now, while you were reading the question, I'm sure you were trying your best to understand the question. But what does that mean, to understand the question? Meaning two things. Firstly, what are the concepts tested in the question? Now, if you do not know the concepts being tested, you will not be able to answer the question at all. Secondly, how much do I need to know to get the full marks? If you do not know how much you are needed to write, you may end up getting only part of the marks even though you understand the question and the concept given. Now, let us look at number 1, concepts. A big part of understanding a question is to understand the concepts that you are being tested in the question. The teacher who designed this question must leave evidences in the question to tell you what is being tested. The first evidence I see here is the word iron. Now when I think of iron, I am reminded of the concept 7. Iron is a magnetic material. Now because of this evidence, I'm sure that the concept tested here must be magnets attract magnetic materials such as iron. At the same time, I also know that sand is not a magnetic material. The evidence here, removing the needles from the bowl, confirms that the second concept being tested is based on what I thought so, which is magnet does not attract non-magnetic materials. Now since Fatima in this story wanted to separate iron needles from the sand using an object, and the separation of the needles from the sand requires a magnet, therefore object A must be a magnet. Now let us go on to part 2. Now having understood the concept being tested, let's understand what is required of us in our answer. There are two parts. Part 1, we have to state what object A is. And part 2, we have to explain, we have to give a reason for part 1. Now part 1 is known as a leading question, which means that if you get it right, the teacher will then go on to read your reasons to decide if you deserve any marks or not. However, if part 1 is wrong, then the teacher will not read your reasons anymore and just give a 0. For example, if you were to write in part 1 that object A should be a rubber eraser, which is clearly wrong, I'm sure you understand that no matter what you write for the second part of the answer, you will still get a 0. So what if you were to give part 1 correct, but leave the second part blank? You should also get a 0. Why? Marks are given in this question here, for example, where there's a part 2 give a reason for your explanation, for your justification, for your scientific reasoning. And without your reasoning, you don't get the marks. Okay? Now that you understand the two concepts and understand that you have to give a scientific explanation, you can do so easily using concepts. First, you need to make your claim. Okay? And your claim here must be object A should be a magnet. A claim is a statement that you make, a decision that you have to make. In this case here, you have decided that object A should be a magnet. And as explained earlier, giving the correct claim is only one part of the answer, and you must go on to explaining, because without the explanation, you don't get the marks. Now, next you've got to give the reasoning, part 2 here. Alright, and you will link the reason to your claim with the word because. And because, so your answer will go like this. Object A should be a magnet because a magnet will attract the iron needles since they are magnetic materials. Now this answer also explains the interaction between the magnet and the iron needle. However, if you stop here, and I believe many of you did stop your answer at this point, right, you will only get 1 mark at most instead of the 2 marks. Why? Because you will still need to explain what happens to the sand, which is why you need to continue with, but the magnet will not attract sand since they are non-magnetic materials. It is only when you have both of these sentences that you're explaining in a scientific way how the separation of the iron needles and the sand happens. You'll notice that both parts of these reasons are connected to the concepts which you have identified correctly earlier. And before you end this lesson, Please proceed to try practice questions 5, 6, and 7. And if you are still not very confident, no worries. Just watch this video again to let me teach you. Remember to guide your thinking and understanding of your question by using CECR. Last but not least, remember to identify the question feature to know the expectations of your answer. This is Mr. James Long here. All the best. I'll see you in the next lesson.